Hello and welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast. BuiltOnAir is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase. On today's episode, we speak with Hannah Clark, Marketing and Communications Manager, Clothing Swap Runner, and Airtable aficionado. Hannah hails from the Twin Cities in Minnesota, where she uses Airtable to help not just her work life, but her home life as well. Hannah discovered Airtable about 9 months ago, and in those 9 months has managed to amass an impressive amount of knowledge about the product. She even was selected as a winner of Airtable's recent block ideation contest. Like many users, she started out by modifying one of Airtable's templates, the social media content calendar, to match her needs. After getting a bit more comfortable, she started building her own bases from scratch. She has since published 3 bases to the Airtable Universe, with uses ranging from fun to practical. She shows us these bases today: her personal budget and debt tracker, movie and TV log, and home improvement base. Most striking in these bases is Hannah's creative use of the gallery view. For many of her bases, she has created beautiful cover images using the app Canva and used those to quickly identify each record. For example, each summary record in her personal budget and debt tracker has a pretty cover image of the month and year. She also shows us a bit of the base she uses to run her clothing drives, Big Fat Super Swap and In-Betweeny Super Swap, which has a mission of providing clothing options for plus-size people of all genders. Last year, they were able to distribute and hand-deliver over 34 winter coats, an important staple of winters in Minnesota. Bravo, Hannah. Check out the show notes to learn more about Hannah. Good morning, Hannah. Thank you for joining us and welcome to BuiltOnAir.
Good morning.
Excellent. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited to talk to you today. So you are a marketing and communications manager. And
Yep.
you also do the clothing swap, which I am super excited to learn more about.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right in with how did you discover Airtable? How long have you been using it for?
I've been using Airtable for about 9 months. I do marketing and communications for a small company, and I needed something to help me manage our social media calendar a little better. There's a ton of social media scheduling apps, and they're all okay, but none of them keep like a really good record of calendar, especially like with assets, like photos and stuff. So I needed a solution. I had a friend who'd been using it to manage trade shows, and I was like, well, okay, I'll check it out. And I just immediately fell in love. I found the like social media calendar template somewhere, and then I realized how customizable it was, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna use it for trade shows, and I'm gonna use it for this, and I'm gonna use it for this. And then suddenly I was like, oh, there's no template for this, so I'm gonna build my own. And now I just build Airtables for fun.
Right. Same here. That's so funny actually, because that's pretty much how I got into Airtable as well, was using it for trade shows.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely great for that. So was your first base one of the like templates that you just kind of started customizing for your own use?
Yeah. I think my very first base was like a social media content calendar one, which is great, so comprehensive. And from there, I just started trying to figure out what else I could use Airtable for, and then I reached a limit on what I needed because I do so many weird things. I was like, okay, well, how do I build this out? And then I started experimenting, and formulas are super fun. I'd never been a big Excel user, but now I'm really good at formulas in Airtable, which has translated into Excel, which is great.
Yeah.
And yeah, just all the different things you can do. And it has just been really cool to like learn and build more. I just keep building bases so I can explore the different features.
Exactly. And they just came out with a whole slew of new features that is just so overwhelming. I'm like, I'm gonna have to spend hours like revamping all of my bases with this new stuff.
Right? Yeah, when new blocks come out, it's so exciting. I get to look at all my dashboards and figure out what now I can add.
Oh my goodness. The one feature I'm particularly excited about is the new conditional roll-ups, where you can choose conditions to only use certain fields. Like you don't have to have an additional formula field to limit those to only look at blown away.
I'm so excited.
I know, right? I haven't even had time to dive in, but I'm super excited about it. Oh my goodness. So that's great. And I saw that you've published a few bases on the Airtable Universe, which is so cool. Congratulations about that. And how has that gone?
Good. It's really cool. I started with my budget database, which is really cool. I think until recently that was my masterpiece, because there's just so many moving parts to it. But I think it flows really well and it's so useful. And that one can seem kind of complicated. So I went and I made like a similar, but more simple one for house project tracking. I also live in a house that is very old and needs a lot of projects. So that one I actually use every day anyway. And yeah, it's cool. It's been cool to like share them with people. It's been cool to get my friends into Airtable. Especially like through the budget tracker, because like social media, there's a million budget tracking apps, but a lot of them are really expensive or they're just not customizable, and I didn't like any of those, and so I made one.
It's perfect, right? And I love how Airtable like puts the power in your hands to create whatever you want, and you don't have to spend that thousands of dollars a month on that like niche product that's only going to satisfy that one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's super cool. So what is a little bit of like your background? Have you always been in marketing and communications?
I started in publishing. So when I was in college, I worked at like the local newspaper, or like the college newspaper, and then the college press. Then I got out of college and I worked in a magazine, and I started doing marketing for them. And then over time, that's kind of evolved into more of a like marketing and communications role, doing the social media for them. And now I've worked at a couple different places doing similar things. And now I am the communications and marketing manager for a small diabetes tech startup. So it's only been a few years into my career, but I think I've done pretty well at establishing a really awesome career.
That sounds like it. That's super, super cool. And do you think Airtable has played a big role in that so far?
Absolutely, especially, in my most current role, it really helps me dive into the analytics in ways that even something like Google Analytics and like Hootsuite really can't give me the same look that Airtable can give me in certain ways. And it's really, really helpful, and it's really great to take that and use that and pivot these campaigns and create content around these insights that I'm given.
That's super cool. And are you grabbing the insights, like, are you pushing them back into Airtable at all, or are you using Zapier for that?
Yeah, I've been using Zapier a lot, especially in marketing surveys. It's really great. So we use Typeform a lot. And I think that uses like native Zapier links. It's great. It's so awesome. And then I use Zaps in my table to collate everything so I can see the differences between channels, and then I can see it all together. And it's just so great. It's so wonderful.
That's awesome. So you're planning your social media posts in the base. Do you actually use Zapier to send any of those posts to Facebook?
I haven't yet, just because I'm still experimenting with Zaps. Zaps are very new to me, and they're so cool. I just like the moment of like completing my first successful Zap was just so exciting. I told everyone in my office, I was like, I just made a Zap, and everyone's like, I don't know what that is, but I'm very happy for you. Like, you seem excited. Yeah, and so now it's really cool to use that. I think the nice thing about Airtable is it's easy to play with. And so it's easy to learn how to like automate these things and do great. One thing I did recently with Zaps was our blog. We have a blog on our website, like most websites do. And I have it send me a link from my Airtable to my blog post when it's scheduled to post in Slack. So every time it posts, it reminds me like, hey, you have a post, which is great because like a lot of folks, I schedule things months in advance and I forget what's coming out, and it's so helpful.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love how you can use it as a building block for everything else. Like a centralized place to just shoot information off where you need it, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. And like efficiency, I love making efficient processes, and like the way you can streamline stuff on Airtable is just so great. Like, you know, forms can become sales funnels, can become a CRM system. Like we have a marketing template we use if people need things like created for them, and like that becomes a really great project manager. You know, people just tell us what they need and when they need it, and we use that to schedule and build and keep assets, and even have a pickup place for them to like grab their stuff when it's done. So it's just so like infinitely flexible, and it's so great.
It really is. It's like I was blown away by it the first time I saw it, and immediately started trying to get everybody in the office hooked on it as well. Has that happened for you?
Yeah. I'm just like, okay, so I built an Airtable for us, and people are like, I didn't ask, and I'm like, okay, well, I did it, so let's use it. And you know, I use it in my volunteering, I use it in my personal life. So it's really like made every part of my life more efficient.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely same here. And what I found is a lot of people, like at least in my workspace, would be like, yeah, okay, just like you said, like, cool, yeah, we whatever. But then as soon as I see it and start like actually digging in, then they're like, hey, could you do this with Airtable?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super fun how just one thing leads to another.
Yeah. And then here we are.
Exactly, right? Yeah. If you had told me like 2 years ago, or maybe even three almost, that I was going to be hosting a podcast talking to people about it, I'd be like, what?
But yeah, exactly.
It's super cool. I just love it so much. So I read that you were a winner of a block contest in March.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I'm super excited to hear.
So recently, my company has an app, and I recently built a dashboard to help us analyze error trends within the app, which is great. You know, all apps have errors, and it's great to figure out what those are and when they're occurring and why, so you can eliminate them. And so I built this really wonderful dashboard. Unfortunately, I can't show it, but it's great. Trust me. Um, and in creating this dashboard, I was running into limitations in blocks of what data I could show. I didn't want to keep adding formulas to my table, so I could get, you know, more pared down information like ratios and whatever. Like I didn't want to keep adding formulas and formulas. And so my idea was basically just like a summary block, but instead of summarizing one data set, you could summarize two data sets. So like number of errors versus number of like successful whatever. So that was my idea. It's going to solve a bunch of my problems, and I won. So
That's so
like
cool.
truly the best case scenario.
Oh my goodness. So that was like they asked for ideas on what would make a good block, and you submitted that.
Yeah,
And
it was a new block ideation contest. So hopefully that comes to fruition soon, because that would make my life a lot easier.
I agree. I have been finding like that summary block I love for, just one number, but it doesn't really show much more than that. So yeah, that's a great idea. And thank you for suggesting it.
Yeah, I it was one of those things where I was like, it seems so simple. I'm sure this exists. I don't understand why I can't find it. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is one I will suggest myself. And lo and behold, yay.
That's so cool. Did they send you something fun?
I won a gift card, which was cool. I bought a new laptop.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Worked out great.
Oh my goodness. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope they come out with that really soon.
Yeah. I'm excited because it's truly gonna just like change all my dashboards so much. I'm so excited about it.
Absolutely. No, I can't wait for that either. That'll help me out a lot too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, Great. So I'm really interested to hear about your clothing swap that you put together. And does Airtable have anything to do with that?
Yeah, so myself and a few other folks in my community put together, it's called the Big Fat Super Swap, an in-betweeny super swap. And it's a clothing swap to help low-income plus size folks get clothes. So clothing is very expensive, I'm sure you know.
Mhm.
And the higher in size you get, it's more scarce and more expensive. So we created this resource. Well, actually, I inherited the resource. Another person started it. And eventually they just had other projects they wanted to work on, and so they handed it off. And so we've taken the swap over the past, we took it over 3 years ago. This is the third year. And so we've grown it from like 1 to 2 events a year. We do 6 events a year. Yeah, and each event has usually about over 100 people. We have built in a donation program for coats. We buy folks coats because winter coats are very expensive and very necessary in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this past year we distributed over 34 coats, all in brand new condition. So it was really great. Yeah, it's super fun, and we use Airtable for everything. It's so helpful. We use it for our budget tracking, tracking donations. We use it for scheduling, so we get so many clothing donations. We take everything in ahead of time, and we sort them all out, and we get so many clothing donations that we have to go sort clothes, usually about once a week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's just like us we have a partner shop called Cake Plus Size Resale, and we store stuff there. And so we go to Cake and we sit in their basement and we just sort clothes for a few hours. But you know, that's a lot of teamwork. It's a lot of people power. So we use it to help schedule volunteers for that. We have a volunteer application for like the main event. And then it's great because we can just put everybody in there and then send out the link to the view. So if you forget what you signed up for, if you're curious about who else is going to be on your shift, you can go see that. And it's really, really helpful to keep people on track without constantly answering emails about who should be where and when stuff is happening. And then for the coat fund, it's called the Super Coat Fund. We use it to get applicants. So you have to apply to get a coat, which helps us figure out what size you need and what color you want, if we can help with that, and schedule things like pickups and drop-offs because we hand deliver. So I hand delivered 34 coats last year in Minnesota in December. It's an adventure. Um, but it's so helpful. So we have you know, you can apply, and then we use that to help build a list of what we need to buy, and then that list turns into what we have on hand, and then that turns into what we've delivered. So you can add pictures so we know what kind of coats people are getting. It's so helpful, and it's so great, and it's really helped us do all these like very complicated things, these multi-step things, with so many people and so many things, and really condense them down into a smooth form. The first year we did the swap, the first year we did the coat fund, we were doing everything in like Google Sheets and, you know, OneNote, and it's great, it worked, but it took a lot more time, and things are all over the place, and even just being able to put that, even just the past data all into Airtable has made looking at, you know, what we've done and what we can do better, like next year, so helpful. And especially like now that we can do it as we go, it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it gives you kind of a bird's eye view of everything, and you can get as granular as you want, which I love about it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It really is. So I applaud you for all the work you've done for your community. That's super,
Thank
super
you.
great. Of
Thank
course.
you.
Have you run into any like limitations with Airtable? I mean, I know we talked about like the block and your suggestion, which would solve a ton of problems. Anything else that you've noticed that you're like, I really wish they could fix this?
I think the biggest limitation I'm running into right now is just that, it's a newer program.
Mhm.
So the ability to have really, really large bases
Mhm.
is hard. So let's take an app, for example. If you have an app that's used regularly, you cannot put every single app interaction into it. So we've prioritized and we just do error interactions. So luckily, there are a lot less errors than there are successes. So taking just the errors is helpful, and looking at that and how and what they are and when they're happening, and we can look at like sort of an overview of successes, but we can't look at successes in the same way.
Right.
So I think what I would love to see, and what I'm sure is going to happen, is that just the ability to hold data and the robustness of it will grow, and we'll be able to have million record apps
Yeah,
or million record bases.
absolutely. And so I think that's a great point because you're right. I mean, at a certain time, you're going to hit that 50,000 limit quickly for
Yeah.
certain things. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at least in my experience, I'm so impressed with Airtable's processing power because if you put that amount of records in like a different app, like Coda, for example, it would totally just crash. Or at least in my experience, that's been happening.
Yeah, and even just like the blocks live updating
Mhm.
is just, it's so great. And the fact that all this is happening in, your web browser is, it's phenomenal. It's great. I mean, despite its limitations, it's still an incredible app, and I think that's really cool. When I run into a problem where I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that. I'm just like, but I can do everything else. It's fine.
Right. And chances are 6 months down the road, maybe I will be able to do that in Airtable. I mean, their pace has been crazy lately, just coming out with new thing after new thing.
Yeah, every time I get an email, I'm just like, oh man, has it been like a couple months? No, it's been like a couple weeks. It's great.
Yeah, I'm super impressed and I'm super excited. So what's next for you? Do you have any big plans on a new base that you're going to design?
I'm working on updating my personal budget bases. So because I also use that every day, I've added like other things in, like net worth. Um, I'm not worth that much, unfortunately, but it is nice to know, especially I think like, a lot of my friends and I were, in our late 20s, early 30s, we're more established in our careers. So we can finally get a slightly less depressing view of our finances. So it's kind of cool to look at that. And so I've been building out like a net worth calculator, to help you track your investments and your assets and what you're worth. And that's fun. And just, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is improving old things for me. So I mean, like, my basis for the swap, there's always something that can be improved, there's always something that can be automated.
Mhm.
My bases at work, like, since I built my trade show base, I've learned so much more. So I'm gonna go back and update it. So I think that's the cool thing about Airtable is like, when you're going back to update stuff, it doesn't feel like you're starting from square one. It just feels like you're making something great even better.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I have to do any sort of like data massaging or anything, I always put it into Airtable because it makes it easier. It's just easier to work in than Excel.
Yep. Yeah. I have so many just like random bases that are just like test bases.
I do too. I've got like tabs that are just like all unnamed. I just keep adding. I'm like, okay, maybe I should clean this up someday.
Yeah, all my work ones that we share with people, I have like all the views and all the dashboards, and then I just have Hannah's Sandbox, and that's just the one where I'm just messing around and making things wild, and it's awesome.
Awesome. No, that's super, super cool. Well, I'm
Yeah,
excited to see what you have for us today.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the published one, and I did actually just update this as well. So what's great about this is you can add in so many different things. So it may now let's add, what are we gonna add? What did we buy today? We bought, we're just gonna buy dinner. And it's gonna be $35. I don't know what we're buying, but I hope it's delicious.
Yes.
I think I'm getting Vietnamese food tonight, so yay.
Awesome.
And so there's so many different categories. And this is just based on like what I buy. So what's great is like, you can add stuff. If you don't buy a lot of beauty products, if you buy more video games, you can add that. But I buy a lot of beauty products.
Same here.
So it's great. And if you put it on your credit card, you can do that. And then, it's just, and it helps you really break down what you're doing, and it helps you keep track of what you're spending, where it's going, and like what you're spending it on. What I really love is like that you can add it to your debt, so it's easier to keep track of your debt in real time. Like a lot of folks, there's a lot of lag in banking apps, right? So you sometimes I'll look and stuff hasn't updated and it's been like a week, and I'm just like, I don't think that's accurate. um, so it's really helpful to like know in real time what's happening and what's not. The other cool thing, and this is what I just updated, is I use this in my personal one and I didn't actually realize it wasn't added to the published one, is that you can look at frequency. So that's really helpful. If you're seeing something that you buy all the time, let's say you buy coffee every week, you can change it from one time to frequent. So you know that like, okay, this is probably something I should expect to budget in next month. And you can even like set something aside. So I know I'm going to spend coffee. I'm going to spend $20 on coffee. Ooh, I should know how to spell. This month, and so I can put that in there without a date. And I can still add everything in and just put it to scheduled, and yeah, and like put it in my budget and know that like, okay, so this is going to come out, and I know that it's going to happen, but I know that it's already there, it's already accounted for. I don't have to worry about overspending.
Right. You're like saying, I know I'm going to put this much towards it. And so you're already seeing it taken out and you don't have to play with that anymore.
Yeah. And, you can do that with payments and categories. Payments is really helpful if you're, spending a lot on your credit card, or you're doing a great job spending in cash or debit. And so you want to look at that and be like, wow, I'm doing great. And even just like, we all have days where we accidentally spend a ton, or we're just busy. Like, if you're buying a lot of stuff for work or home, this is really helpful. I have a very similar one that I use for the swap. So I tend to just spend one day every swap session and just buy everything I need. And it's great to like be able to look at that, and it's easier to add stuff by just looking at your daily view.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you can look at your budgets, and I love the ability to customize an Airtable. That's probably one of my favorite things. You can make really cute little covers, which is so fun. I build all mine in Canva. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's such a great tool. I use it a ton for this.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
a great idea. I haven't actually thought about doing that, like displaying it as a gallery view with a pretty picture. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it makes it so much more fun too. And I think that's like the cool thing. It looks less clinical and more personal.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm totally going to steal that from you. That's awesome.
Go ahead, it's great.
Yeah.
And like I think one version I built for one of my friends I was helping them customize, they did like different like pictures for each month. It was very cute.
I love it.
Um, and you get your income, which is great. So you can do like if you're pulling out of savings, like this counts it as income, and you can take it out of savings and see that you've done that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to just view money you're taking in the old-fashioned way, you can do that.
Awesome.
And it helps you figure out how much you're saving, which is really great. So, and you can add notes, which is great. So like I personally have like an auto poll on my savings just because otherwise I will forget.
Right.
And so you can add a note in there like, okay, this month I know I'm going to save that. Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets a little even more fine detail. So this is a roll up of what you save every month.
Absolutely.
So you can see both like your total and what you're saving every month, which is very, very helpful in my opinion. And I think it has helped a lot of other folks too.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah. The summary table is almost always necessary just to get that bird's eye view.
Yeah, right. Like you can see a lot in the details, but sometimes having a larger picture paints a more vivid idea.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then like, there's a debt summary. And this is like also something fun. Like, here there's pictures. I wish I owned a DeLorean. I don't. Um, I own a Kia, but dream car. So there's that. And then the one fun thing I did here is formulas. So formulas are really cool. I'm still constantly learning how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so great and they're so versatile. And I love that you can add emojis in them. I know that seems very silly. But I think it's great.
I do too.
So you can, so these are like paid off and not paid off. So I think it makes it really fun. And even just like for some things like for the swap, if someone paid with their like personal card versus like the swap card, it'll have like a big red like not paid back if we haven't accounted for that in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So it can like both make it fun and be like very helpful as a reminder of like there's a big red X here, so obviously I should pay attention to that. But in this kind, you just have a little party emoji. So
I love it.
yeah,
I'm doing that too. I use emojis for everything in Airtable.
it's so great. Well, and I learned how to like, so this is my work in progress one. I learned how to like put the emoji in the title. And so the emoji is the like badge.
Yes. Then that little in your workspace, it shows up as the big picture and it's in color. And oh, I know. I love that. That's so
It's great. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. That was like truly life-changing for me. I loved it.
Seriously, I saw somebody else that I was talking to had that and I was like, oh my gosh, you can do that? That's so cool. That's really, really great.
Yeah. And then this is something I updated recently because I realized the formula was wrong. And that's like, I think what I've seen a lot of people say is they're afraid to publish stuff in the universe because it might be incorrect or they're not, confident in that. And it's like, you can update it. It's fine.
Exactly.
So this has been updated recently. So if anyone had checked it out a while ago and they didn't like the calculator, good news. Figured it out.
Awesome.
This is great because like most folks I know, we're really trying to hustle to pay things down. So it's great. So now you can put in, this works correctly. The part that works correctly now is you can put on your payoff goal and it'll help you calculate your monthly payment needed
Oh,
to reach that goal.
nicely done. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's nice because, sometimes we understand that like things change, and so maybe you want to pay a little less and you can like move out that goal, and it gives you a better idea and a little more control and knowledge about what you need to do to be in control of your finances, which is great.
Absolutely.
And we have the same thing for credit cards. And so this is what I'm working on building it out on. And so this is based off my own personal one. So a savings goals calculator, which is really helpful. We all have goals and it's nice to kind of keep track of them. And so here's this fun emojis.
Yay.
Again, we love it. I love to see it. And like fun covers, like, yes, this is just a money bag, but it's fun to see it.
Agreed.
And it's great to help keep track of your investments and your assets. And this is just a scrubbed version, but like, I wish I owned a very expensive house, but maybe you do, so it's great. And you can keep track of all of this and make it easy to see, and it goes into your net worth, which, and fun emoji use.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, when you see the real numbers, you're like, oh, that's not as fun as I wanted it to be. But, this changes just a little bit. You hit it is going to be set at $0. So once you hit the $0 mark, you're doing great.
Awesome.
And then you're crushing it. How are you doing? You're crushing it.
That's so cute. I love it.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks get the idea that doing data might not be as fun. And you can make it fun. Like you can make it cool and silly and still have personality. It's not cold and boring numbers. It's a living picture of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm definitely impressed. Honestly, I don't know that I've ever seen a base with such personality.
Thank
It's
you.
great. You're welcome. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I think that's what's made me like to use it more than budgeting apps is like, okay, I can input a picture. That's cool. But this, I don't know, it just makes it a little more fun, and it's cool. And if you have like multiple pictures, so like let's say there's not an example of this in this space, but if you have multiple cars and you just wanted to combine them, you could do that and have both the pictures show up here. And so like that's just like, it's all these like cool, there's an example of it in this one. This is the movies and TV one, but an example of that is like in your yearly overview, you can have like all of your favorite movie posters show up, and it gives you an idea of that, like what you saw that year. This one hasn't been built out very much personally, but it's cool.
That's great. Yeah, I love the gallery view, and I love how you're using it here. Like that's super creative.
Thank you. Yeah, we use it a lot for the Super Coat Fund as well. So this is the boring back-end view with those handy dandy little out of stock big red X's, but there's a great gallery view. So we can view in stock only coats really easily. We know what style they are, what size they are, and if they've been bookmarked for anybody already, which because we hand deliver them and who's getting them, we're able to get kind of like a better idea of if this coat will be appropriate for somebody else. So it's really, really helpful to do stuff like that. The coat buying feature, like, so this is what we use to manage just the coats, like what's coming in, what's going out. We use a formula for that, is just so infinitely helpful. Especially because I can update it sitting in my car after I dropped one off. It's great.
That is great. So you use the phone app a lot?
I do, yeah, and it's great for the budgeting one. I actually, because I use I think I used the small business budget template for what I use for the swap. I got so used to adding like items in when I was shopping for it and when I was doing stuff that I was like, oh, wouldn't this be great if I had a way to do this for my own personal finances? And then I built this.
Perfect.
And I think like I love the phone app. I think in the phone app I even have like the shortcut built directly to my budget base. So instead of opening the Airtable app and then finding my budget base like icon in there, I click it and it goes directly to there. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just so great.
Oh,
And yeah,
that's great. I'm super impressed, and I definitely got a lot of ideas from you. Like, that's super, super cool.
I'm glad. Yeah, it's so fun. And yeah, it's all the different ways we use it. One way I recently learned or figured out a way to use it was to gate content for work. And so this is another fun customization. So we built a form and we put our cute little brand colors. And so you fill out this form and you will get access to our white paper.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a really easy way to gate content without paying a ton of money for all these like specialized programs. And it's so helpful, and it's a really great sales funnel. So on the back end, you get the company, the person who downloaded it, and you can keep better track of if this turns into a sales lead later. So you can use it in so many different ways, from, if you want to calculate your net worth and see if you're crushing it, to crushing it in a sales sense in a sales funnel.
Yes. No, that's awesome. I've never thought of that. So when somebody fills that out, it gets added to that base, and then does an automation take over and send them the white paper?
Yep. So once you click download, it automatically downloads the white paper.
That's so cool. So does it
Yeah.
redirect you? Are you using the redirect function on the
Yep.
form?
Yep. It uses a redirect, so it's really great. That's I wish. My other big wish is that we could do that. We could buy like features per base, because they only have a paid version for work. So doing something like this would be like really great for like the swap or something, where I don't have a paid account. But yeah, so we use the redirect function to bring you to, I think it's like WeTransfer or something. So if anyone wants to view our white paper, I guess you just got that. It's really great. I had a hand in writing it. It's lovely.
Seriously, yeah, I'm super impressed. That's great because it captures who took it, and you could ask them why, or like what, I mean, whatever information you want right at the
Yeah, it's so infinitely useful, and it's just like, that's a teeny tiny little solution that makes a big impact. Like sometimes you don't realize you need something until you look at your budget and the cost of something, and then I think Airtable's really good for breeding ingenuity in that sense.
Absolutely. That's super true. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's a great way to look at it. It definitely does. It breeds creativity, and everybody's like, oh wow, if I could do that, I could do this and this, and it's just awesome.
Yeah. And it's so great. Like, I mean, so my husband and I use the house project tracker. This is the one I uploaded to the base is incredibly similar to the one we have to use, which is this one. And so it's so great, like, to keep track of stuff. He's very Excel based human being. He loves it, and I got him to start using Airtable specifically for this. And it's so helpful. It's so helpful to view what you have on hand. So, if we go to the hardware store, we don't have to guess what we need. Okay, we already know we have drop cloths and painter's tape. Because we didn't have this before, so we kept buying rolls of painter's tape every time we went. So, it's so helpful. And, we know what projects we want to do, and we know what projects we've completed, which is really great. So
Oh
it's
wow.
Yeah, there's like the before and after. So it's so cool to like do something like that. Um, and it's just all these little things that make it so customizable, like, adding in before and after pictures and being able to rate your contractors. Like, it's so helpful. We all know we've used someone we wouldn't use again, but when you're looking through a pile of business cards, you might not remember which one was who.
Right.
So you can do that, and it's so helpful in every single way to be able to do stuff in like a personal realm, in a work realm, in a volunteering realm. And it's just a good way to have fun and be efficient.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
I'm super impressed. I think that the house project tracker is a super good idea as well. I want to put something like that together now.
It's so simple. I think people can look at something like the personal budget one with all the linked records and get a little overwhelmed. And this is, I think, a really good entry level base, right? So I think I have a couple, I've published 3. There's 2 versions of the budget one. There's a monthly and a bi-weekly. But I think this is such a good entry level one, because it uses links, it uses categorization, it uses pictures and attachments, but it's a lot more simple versus something like the personal budget where there's, a bajillion tabs.
Right.
So I think there's a level of entry for everybody, which is great.
Agreed. Absolutely. Well, nice. Great job. That is super cool. Very,
Yeah.
very impressed. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us too. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck with your clothing swap and your Airtable bases. It's so cool, and hopefully we get out of these crazy times soon, and everyone will get back to normal.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, seriously, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you today, Hannah. It was really great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Oh, wait, actually, I need to ask you one more question.
Oh.
Where can our viewers go to learn more about you?
You can find me at hannahclark.com.
Wonderful. And we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.